2 Kings chapter 10. And Ahab had 70 sons in Shamaron. And Jehu wrote letters and sent to Shamaron to the rulers of Israel, to the elders and to the guardians of Ahab, saying, And now, when this letter comes to you, since your master's sons are with you, and you have chariots and horses, and a walled city and weapons, choose the best and most upright of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's house. And they were greatly afraid, and said, Look, 2 sovereigns have not stood before him. How do we stand, we, and he who was over the house, and he who was over the city, the elders also and the guardians sent to Jehu, saying, We are your servants, and all that you say to us we do. We do not set up anyone to reign. Do what is good in your eyes. And he wrote a second letter to them, saying, If you offer me, and if you obey my voice, take the heads of the men your master's sons, and come to me at Yisrael by this time tomorrow. Now the sovereign's sons, 70 beings, were with the great men of the city who brought them up. And it came to be, when the letter came to them, that they took the sovereign's sons and slaughtered them, 70 men, and put their heads in baskets, and sent them to him at Yisrael. Then a messenger came and informed him, saying, They have brought the heads of the sovereign's sons. And he said, Make them 2 heaps at the entrance of the gate until morning. And it came to be in the morning that he went out and stood and said to all the people, You are righteous. Look, I conspired against my master and slew him. But who smote all these? Know now that not one word of Yahuwah, which Yahuwah spoke concerning the house of Ahab, does fall to the ground. For Yahuwah has done what he spoke by his servant Eliyahu. And Jehu smote all those left of the house of Ahab in Israel, and all his great men, and his friends, and his priests, until he left him without a survivor. And he rose up to go, and went to Shamaron. On the way at Beth-Eged of the shepherds, Jehu met the brothers of Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, and said, Who are you? And they answered, We are brothers of Ahaziah, and we have come down to greet the sons of the sovereign and the sons of the sovereign's mother. And he said, Take them alive. So they took them alive and slew them at the well of Beth-Eged, 42 men, and he left none of them. And he left there and met Jonadab, son of Rechab, coming to meet him, and blessed him, and said to him, Is your heart right, as my heart is toward your heart? And Jehonadab answered, It is. Jehu said, If it is, give me your hand. And he gave him his hand, and he took him up to him into the chariot. And he said, Come with me and see my order for Yahuwah. And they made him ride in his chariot. And he came to Shamaron, and smote all those left of Ahab in Shamaron, till he had destroyed them according to the word of Yahuwah which he spoke to Eliyahu. And Jehu gathered all the people and said to them, Ahab served Baal a little, Jehu serves him much. And now call to me all the prophets of Baal, all his servants, and all his priests. Let no one be missing, for I have a great slaughtering to make to Baal. Anyone who is lacking shall not live. But Jehu did this deceptively in order to destroy the servants of Baal. And Jehu said, Set apart an assembly of Baal. So they proclaimed it. And Jehu sent throughout all Israel. And all the servants of Baal came, so that there was not a man left who did not come. And they came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was filled from end to end. And he said to him who was over the wardrobe, Bring out garments for all the servants of Baal. and he brought out garments for them. And Yahu and Jehonadab, son of Rechab, went into the house of Baal, and said to the servants of Baal, Search and see that no servants of Yahuwah are here with you, but only the servants of Baal. So they went in to make offerings and burnt offerings. Now Yahu had appointed for himself 80 men on the outside, and had said, The man who lets escape any of the men whom I have brought into your hands, his life, for his life. And it came to be, when he had finished making the burnt offering, Yahu said to the guard and to the officers, Go in, smite them, let no one come out. And they smote them with the edge of the sword, and the guards and the officers threw them out, and went into the inner room of the house of Baal, and brought out the pillars of the house of Baal, and burned them, and broke down the statue of Baal, and broke down the house of Baal, and made it a latrine to this day. Thus Yahuwah destroyed Baal out of Israel. However, Yahu did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin, from the golden calves that were at Bethel and Dan. And Yahuwah said to Yahu, Because you have done well by doing what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab all that was in my heart, your sons are going to sit on the throne of Israel to the 4th generation. But Yahu did not guard to walk in the Torah of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel with all his heart. For he did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, who had made Israel sin. In those days, Yahuwah began to cut off some in Israel, and Hazael smote them throughout all the border of Israel, from the Jordan to the sun rising, all the land of Gilead, the Gadites and the Reubenites and the Manasseites, from Aurora, which is by the water Arnon, including Gilead and Bashan, and the rest of the acts of Yahu, and all that he did, and all his might, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Yahu slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Shamaron. And Jehoahaz his son reigned in his place. And the days that Yahu reigned over Israel in Shamaron were 28 years. 2 Kings chapter 11. And Athaliah was the mother of Ahaziah. And when she saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the offspring of the reign. But Yehosheba, the daughter of Sarvan Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the sons of the sovereign's sons who were put to death. So they hid him and his nurse in the bedroom from Athaliah, and he was not put to death. And he remained with her in hiding in the house of Yahuwah for 6 years, while Athaliah was reigning over the land. And in the 7th year, Jehoiada sent and brought the commanders of hundreds with the Cariites and the runners, and brought them into the house of Yahuwah to him. And he made a covenant with them, and took an oath from them in the house of Yahuwah, and showed them the son of the sovereign. And he commanded them, saying, This is what you are to do. 1/3 of you who come in on the Sabbath to be on guard in the sovereign's house, and 1/3 of the gate of Sur, and 1/3 at the gate behind the runners, and you shall be on guard in the house, lest it be broken down. And the 2 detachments of you who are going out on the Sabbath shall be on guard in the house of Yahuwah for the sovereign. And you shall surround the sovereign on all sides, every man with his weapons in his hand. And whoever comes within the ranks, let him be put to death, and be with the sovereign as he goes out and as he comes in. So the commanders of the hundreds did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded. And each of them took his men who were going in on the Sabbath with those who were going out on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And the priest gave the commanders of hundreds the spears and shields which had belonged to sovereign David the weed that were in the house of Yahuwah. And the runners stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, all around the sovereign, from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, by the altar and the house. And he brought out the son of the sovereign, and put on him the diadem and the witness. And they set him up to reign, and anointed him, and they clapped their hands and said, Let the sovereign live. And Athaliah heard the noise of the runners, the people, and she came to the people into the house of Yahuwah, and looked and saw the sovereign standing by a column, according to the ruling, and the chiefs and the trumpeters were beside the sovereign, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets. And Athaliah tore her garments and cried out, Treason! Treason! And Jehoiada the priest commanded the commanders of the hundreds, the officers of the army, and said to them, Take her outside the ranks, and slay with the sword whoever follows her. For the priest had said, Do not let her be killed in the house of Yahuwah. So they took hold of her, and she went by way of the horses' entrance to the sovereign's house, and was put to death there. And Jehoiada made a covenant between Yahuwah and the sovereign and the people, to be the people of Yahuwah, also between the sovereign and the people. And all the people of the land went to the house of Baal and broke it down. They completely broke up its altars and images, and slew Mattan, the priest of Baal, before the altars. And the priest appointed inspectors over the house of Yahuwah, and took the commanders of hundreds, and the Cariites and the runners, and all the people of the land. And they brought the sovereign down from the house of Yahuwah, and went by way of the gate of the runners to the sovereign's house. And he sat on the throne of the sovereigns. And all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city had rest, for they had slain Athaliah with the sword in the sovereign's house. Jehoash was 7 years old when he began to reign. 2 Kings chapter 12. Jehoash began to reign in the 7th year of Yahu, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Tisbiah of Beersheba. And Jehoash did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah all the days in which Jehoiada the priest instructed him. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Jehoash said to the priests, All the silver of the set-apart gifts that are brought into the house of Yahuwah, the silver coming over, each man's assessment silver, all the silver that a man purposes in his heart to bring into the house of Yahuwah, let the priests take for themselves, each from his friend, and let them repair the damages of the house, wherever there is damage. And it came to be by the 23rd year of sovereign Jehoash that the priests had not repaired the damages of the house. And sovereign Jehoash called Jehoiada the priest and the other priests, and said to them, Why have you not repaired the damages of the house? And now do not take any more silver from your friends, but give it for repairing the damages of the house. And the priests agreed that they would neither receive any more silver from the people, nor repair the damages of the house. And Jehoiada the priest took a chest and bored a hole in its lid, and set it beside the altar on the right side as one comes into the house of Yahuwah. And the priests who guarded the door put there all the silver that was brought into the house of Yahuwah. And it came to be, whenever they saw that there was much silver in the chest, that the sovereign scribe and the high priest came up and put it in bags, and counted the silver that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and gave the silver, weighed out, into the hands of those who did the work, who had the oversight of the house of Yahuwah. And they paid it out to the carpenters and builders who worked on the house of Yahuwah, and to stone masons and stone cutters, and for buying timber and hewed stone to repair the damage of the house of Yahuwah, and for all that was paid out to repair the house. However, there were not made for the house of Yahuwah basins of silver, snuffers, sprinkling bowls, trumpets, any objects of gold or objects of silver, from the silver that was brought into the house of Yahuwah. For they gave that to the workmen, and they repaired the house of Yahuwah with it. And they did not reckon with the men into whose hand they gave the silver to be paid to workmen, for they acted trustworthily. The silver from the trespass offerings and the silver from the sin offerings was not brought into the house of Yahuwah. It belonged to the priests. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, went up and fought against Gath, and captured it. And Hazael set his face to go up to Jerusalem. And Jehoash, sovereign of Yehudah, took all the set-apart gifts that his fathers, Jehoshaphat, and Jehoram, and Ahaziah, sovereigns of Yehudah, had set apart, and his own set-apart gifts, and all the gold found in the treasuries of the house of Yahuwah, and in the sovereign's house, and sent them to Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Then he went away from Jerusalem. And the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? And his servants rose up and made a conspiracy, and smote Joash in the house of Millo, which goes down to Silla. For Jozakah, son of Shemath, and Jehozabad, son of Shamar, his servants smote him. So he died. And they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. And Amaziah, his son, reigned in his place. 2 Kings chapter 13. In the 23rd year of Joash, son of Ahaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, Jehoahaz, son of Jehu, began to reign over Israel in Shamaron, and reigned 17 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, and followed the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He did not turn away from them. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel, and he gave them into the hand of Hazael, sovereign of Aram, and into the hand of Benadad, son of Hazael, all the days. Then Jehoahaz sought the face of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah listened to him. For he saw the oppression of Israel, because the sovereign of Aram oppressed them. And Yahuwah gave Israel a savior, so that they came out from under the hand of Aram, and the children of Israel dwelt in their tents as before. However, they did not turn away from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, who had made Israel sin, but walked in them. Moreover, the Asherah also remained in Shamaron, for he left of the army of Jehoahaz only 50 horsemen, and 10 chariots, and 10,000 footmen, for the sovereign of Aram had destroyed them, and made them like the dust at threshing. And the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, and all that he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Shamaron, and Joash his son reigned in his place. In the 37th year of Joash, sovereign of Yehudah, Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, began to reign over Israel in Shamaron 16 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from all the sins of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin, he walked in it. And the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, and his might with which he fought against Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat on his throne, and Joash was buried in Shamaron with the sovereigns of Israel. And Elisha had become sick with the sickness in which he died. And Joash the sovereign of Israel came down to him and wept over his face and said, O my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. And Elisha said to him, Take a bow and some arrows. And he took a bow and some arrows. And he said to the sovereign of Israel, Place your hand on the bow. So he placed his hand, and Elisha placed his hands on the hands of the sovereign, and said, Open the east window. And he had opened it, and Elisha said, Shoot. And he shot. Then he said, The arrow of deliverance of Yahuwah, and the arrow of deliverance from Aram. For you shall smite Aram at Ephah until it is finished. Then he said, Take the arrows, and he took them. And he said to the sovereign of Israel, Strike the ground. And he struck 3 times and stopped. And the man of Elohim was wroth with him and said, You should have smitten 5 or 6 times, then you would have smitten Aram till its utter destruction. But now you shall smite Aram only 3 times. And Elisha died. And they buried him, and the raiding bands from Moab came into the land into the spring of the year. And it came to be they were burying a man, and there they saw a raiding band, and cast the man in the tomb of Elisha. And the man fell and touched the bones of Elisha, and came to life and stood on his feet. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. But Yahuwah showed favor to them, and had compassion on them, and turned toward them for the sake of his covenant with Abraham, Ishak, and Jacob, and would not destroy them or cast them from his presence as yet. And Hazael, sovereign of Aram, died, and Ben-Hadad, his son, reigned in his place, and Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, recovered from the hand of Ben-Hadad, son of Hazael, the cities which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoahaz his father in battle. Joash smote him 3 times, and he recovered the cities of Israel. 2 Kings chapter 14. In the 2nd year of Joash, son of Jehoahaz, sovereign of Israel, Amaziah, son of Joash, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, but not like his father David. He did according to all his father Joash did. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And it came to be, as soon as the reign was established in his hand, that he smote his servants who had smitten his father the sovereign. But he did not put to death the children of the murderers, according to what is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe, in which Yahuwah commanded, saying, Fathers are not put to death for the children, and children are not put to death for the fathers, but each one is put to death for his own sin. He smote Edom in the valley of Salt, 10,000, and took Silla in battle, and called its name Yokthiel to this day. Amaziah then sent messengers to Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, son of Yahu, sovereign of Israel, saying, Come, let us look each other in the face. And Jehoash, sovereign of Israel, sent to Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son as wife. And a wild beast that was in Lebanon passed by and trampled the thistle. You have certainly smitten Edom, and your heart has lifted you up. Be esteemed and stay in your house. But why do you stir up yourself to evil that you should fall, you and Yehudah with you? But Amaziah did not listen, so Jehoash, sovereign of Israel, went up, and he and Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, faced one another at Beth-Shemesh, which belongs to Yehudah. And Yehudah was smitten before Israel, and they each fled to his tent. And Jehoash, sovereign of Israel, caught Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, son of Jehoash, son of Ahaziah, at Beth-Shemesh. And they came to Jerusalem, and he broke through the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits, and took all the gold and silver and all the objects that were found in the house of Yahuwah, and in the treasuries of the sovereign's house, and hostages, and returned to Shamaron. And the rest of the acts of Jehoash, which he did, and his might, and how he fought with Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Jehoash slept with his fathers, and was buried in Shamaron with the sovereigns of Israel. And Yerobeam his son reigned in his place. And Amaziah, son of Joash, sovereign of Yehudah, lived 15 years after the death of Jehoash, son of Jehoahaz, sovereign of Israel. And the rest of the acts of Amaziah, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? And they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem. And he fled to Lachish, and they sent after him to Lachish, and killed him there, and brought him on horses. And he was buried at Jerusalem with his fathers in the city of David. And all the people of Yehudah took Azariah, who was 16 years old, and set him up to reign instead of his father Amaziah. He built Elath, and restored it to Yehudah, after the sovereign slept with his fathers. In the 15th year of Amaziah, son of Joash, the sovereign of Yehudah, Jerobeam, son of Joash, the sovereign of Israel, began to reign in Shamaron, and reigned 41 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from all the sins of Jerobeam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. He restored the border of Israel from the entrance of Hamath to the sea of the Arabah, according to the word of Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, which he had spoken through his servant Jonah, son of Amittai, the prophet who was from Gath-Hephar. But Yahuwah saw that the affliction of Israel was very bitter, and there was no one, neither shut up nor left at large, to help Israel. And Yahuwah had not said that he would blot out the name of Israel from under the heavens, but saved them by the hand of Jerobeam, son of Joash. And the rest of the acts of Jerobeam, and all that he did, and his might, how he fought, and how he recovered Damascus and Hamath for Yehudah and Israel, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Jerobeam slept with his fathers, the sovereigns of Israel, and Zechariah his son reigned in his place. 2 Kings chapter 15. In the 27th year of Jerobeam, sovereign of Israel, Azariah, son of Amaziah, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Yakoyahu of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, according to all that his father Amaziah did. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Yahuwah smote the sovereign so that he was a leper until the day of his death. And he dwelt in a separate house, and Jotham, son of the sovereign, was over the house, ruling the people of the land. And the rest of the acts of Uzziah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. And Jotham his son reigned in his place. In the 38th year of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehudah, Zechariah, son of Jeroboam, began to reign over Israel in Shamaron for 6 months. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, as his fathers had done. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. And Shallum, son of Yabash, conspired against him and smote him in front of the people and killed him and reigned in his place. And the rest of the acts of Zechariah, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereign of Israel. This was the word of Yahuwah which he spoke to Yahu, saying, Your sons to the 4th generation are going to sit on the throne of Israel. And it came to be so. Shallum, son of Yabash, began to reign in the 39th year of Josiah, the sovereign of Yehudah. And he reigned a month of days in Shamaron. And Menahem, son of Gada, went up from Tirzah and came to Shamaron, and smote Shallum, son of Yabash, in Shamaron, and killed him and reigned in his place. And the rest of the acts of Shallum and the conspiracy which he led, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel. And Menahem smote Tirzah and all who were there, and its borders from Tirzah, because they did not open it to him. Therefore he smote it, and he ripped open all the pregnant women. In the 39th year of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehudah, Menahem, son of Gada, began to reign over Israel 10 years in Shamaron. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin all his days. Pul, the sovereign of Asher, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver for his hand to be with him to strengthen the reign in his hand. And Menahem exacted the silver of Israel, of all the mighty men of wealth, of each man 50 shekels of silver, to give to the sovereign of Asher. And the sovereign of Asher turned back and did not stay there in the land. And the rest of the acts of Menahem and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Menahem slept with his fathers, and Pekahiah his son reigned in his place. In the 50th year of Uzziah, the sovereign of Yehudah, Pekahiah the son of Menahem began to reign over Israel and Shamaron for 2 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. And Pekah, son of Ramaliah, a chief officer of his, conspired against him and smote him in Shamaron, in the high place of the sovereign's house, along with Argob and Arya, and with him were 50 men of Gilead. So he killed him and reigned in his place. And the rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all that he did, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel. In the 52nd year of Azariah, sovereign of Yehudah, Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, began to reign over Israel and Shamaron for 20 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who had made Israel sin. In the days of Pekah, sovereign of Israel, Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Asher, came and took Alion and Abel, Beth Maacah and Yanawah and Kodash and Hatzar and Gilead and Gilead, all the land of Naphtali, and took them into exile to Asher. And Hoshea, son of Elah, led a conspiracy against Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, and smote him and killed him, and reigned in his place in the 20th year of Jotham, son of Uzziah. And the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, see, they are written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel. In the 2nd year of Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, sovereign of Israel, Jotham, son of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Yerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah. He did according to all that his father Uzziah did. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. He built the upper gate of the house of Yahuwah. And the rest of the acts of Jotham and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? In those days Yahuwah began to send Ratzin, sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, against Yehudah. So Jotham slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father, and Ahaz his son reigned in his place. 2 Kings chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, Ahaz, son of Jotham, sovereign of Yehudah, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah his Elohim, as his father David had done. But he walked in the way of the sovereigns of Israel, and he also made his son pass through the fire according to the abominations of the Gentiles whom Yahuwah had dispossessed from before the children of Israel. And he slaughtered and burned incense on the high places and on the hills, and under every green tree. Then Ratzin, sovereign of Aram, and Pekah, son of Ramalyahu, sovereign of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to battle. And they besieged Ahaz, but were unable to overcome him. At that time Ratzin, sovereign of Aram, recovered Elath for Aram, and drove the men of Yehudah from Elath, and the Edomites went to Elath, and have dwelt there to this day. And Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Asher, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and save me from the hand of the sovereign of Aram, and from the hand of the sovereign of Israel, who are rising up against me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and in the treasuries of the house of the sovereign, and sent it as a present to the sovereign of Asher. And the sovereign of Asher listened to him. And the sovereign of Asher went up against Damascus, and captured it, and exiled it to Kir, and he killed Ratzin. And sovereign Ahaz went to meet Tiglath-Pileser, sovereign of Asher, at Damascus, and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And sovereign Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a sketch of the altar and its pattern according to all its workmanship. And Uriah the priest built an altar according to all the sovereign Ahaz had sent from Damascus. And Uriah the priest made it before sovereign Ahaz came from Damascus. And when the sovereign came from Damascus, the sovereign saw the altar, and the sovereign approached the altar and made offerings on it. And he burned his burnt offering and his grain offering, and he poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings on the altar. And the bronze altar which was before Yahuwah he brought from the front of the house, from between the new altar and the house of Yahuwah, and put it on the north side of his altar. And sovereign Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, On the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening grain offering, and the sovereign's burnt offering, and his grain offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering, and their drink offerings, and sprinkle on it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the slaughtering. And the bronze altar is for me to inquire by. And Uriah the priest did according to all that sovereign Ahaz commanded. And sovereign Ahaz cut off the side panels of the stands, and removed the basins from them. And he took down the seat from the bronze oxen that were under it, and put it on a pavement of stones. And the covered way which they had built in the house for the Sabbath, and the sovereign's outer entrance he took from the house of Yahuwah, because of the sovereign of Asher. And the rest of the acts of Ahaz which he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? So Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah his son reigned in his place. 2 Kings chapter 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, sovereign of Yehudah, Hoshea, son of Elah, began to reign over Israel in Shamaron for 9 years. And he did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, but not as the sovereigns of Israel who were before him. Shalmaneser, sovereign of Asher, came up against him, and Hoshea became his servant, and rendered him a present. But the sovereign of Asher found a conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to sovereign of Mizraim, and had not brought a present to the sovereign of Asher as year by year. And the sovereign of Asher shut him up and bound him in prison. And the sovereign of Asher went through all the land, and went up to Shamaron, and besieged it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the sovereign of Asher captured Shamaron, and exiled Israel to Asher, and settled them in Halah and Haba, the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. Now this came to be because the children of Israel had sinned against Yahuwah their Elohim, who had brought them up out of the land of Mizraim from under the hand of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mizraim, and feared other mighty ones, and walked in the laws of the Gentiles whom Yahuwah had dispossessed from before the children of Israel, and of the sovereigns of Israel that they had made. And the children of Israel secretly did against Yahuwah their Elohim matters that were not right, and they built for themselves high places in all their cities, from watchtower unto the walled city, and set up for themselves pillars and Asherim on every high hill and under every green tree, and burn incense there on all the high places, like the Gentiles whom Yahuwah had removed from their presence. And they did evil matters to provoke Yahuwah, and served the idols of which Yahuwah had said to them, Do not do this. And Yahuwah warned Israel and Yehudah through all of his prophets and every seer, saying, Turn back from your evil ways, and guard my commands and my laws according to all the Torah which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. But they did not listen, and hardened their necks like the necks of their fathers, who did not put their trust in Yahuwah their Elohim, and rejected his laws and his covenant that he had made with their fathers, and his witnesses which he had witnessed against them, and went after worthlessness, and became worthless. and after the Gentiles who were all around them, of whom Yahuwah had commanded them not to do like them. And they left all the commands of Yahuwah their Elohim, and made for themselves a molded image, 2 calves, and made an Asherah, and bowed themselves to all the host of the heavens, and served Baal, and caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, and practiced divination and sorcery, and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of Yahuwah, to provoke him. So Yahuwah was very enraged with Israel, and removed them from his presence. None was left but the tribe of Yehudah alone. Yehudah also did not guard the commands of Yahuwah their Elohim, but walked in the laws of Israel which they made. And Yahuwah rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and gave them into the hand of plunderers, until he had cast them out from his presence. For he tore Israel from the house of the weed, and they made Yerobeam son of Nebat sovereign, and Yerobeam drove Israel from following Yahuwah, and made them commit a great sin. And the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Yerobeam which he did. They did not turn away from them, until Yahuwah removed Israel from his presence, as he spoke by all his servants the prophets. So Israel was exiled from their land to Asher, as it is to this day. And the sovereign of Asher brought people from Babel, and from Kutath, and from Awa, and from Hamath, and Sepharwaim, and placed them in the cities of Shamaron instead of the children of Israel. And they took possession of Shamaron, and dwelt in its cities. And it came to be at the beginning of their dwelling there, that they did not fear Yahuwah. And Yahuwah sent lions among them, which kept on slaying among them. And they spoke to the sovereign of Asher, saying, The nations whom you have removed and placed in the cities of Shamaron do not know the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And he has sent lions among them. And see, they are slaying among them, because they do not know the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And the sovereign of Asher commanded, saying, Send one of the priests whom you exiled from there to go there. Let him go and dwell there, and let him teach them the right ruling of the Elohim of the land. And one of the priests whom they had exiled from Shamaron came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how to fear Yahuwah. But every nation was making mighty ones of its own, and put them in the houses of the high places which the Shemaronites had made, every nation in the cities where they dwelt. And the men of Babel made Sukkot, Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashimah, and the Arwites made Nebahaz and Tartag, and the Sephirites burned their children in fire to Adremelech, and Melech, the mighty ones of Sepharim. They also feared Yahuwah, and from every class they made for themselves priests of the high places, who offered for them in the house of the high places. They were fearing Yahuwah, and they were serving their own mighty ones, according to the ruling of the nations from among whom they had been exiled. To this day they are doing according to the former rulings. They are not fearing Yahuwah, nor do they follow their laws or their right rulings, or the Torah and command which Yahuwah had commanded the children of Yaakov, whose name he made Yisrael, with whom Yahuwah had made a covenant, and commanded them, saying, Do not fear other mighty ones, nor bow down to them, nor serve them, nor slaughter to them. But Yahuwah, who brought you up from the land of Mizraim with great power, and with an outstretched arm, him you shall fear, and to him you shall bow yourselves, and to him you shall slaughter, and guard to do forever the laws and the right rulings, and the Torah and the command which he wrote for you, and do not fear other mighty ones, and do not forget the covenant that I have made with you, and do not fear other mighty ones, but fear Yahuwah your Elohim, so that he delivers you from the hand of all your enemies. And they did not obey, but did according to their former ruling. So these nations were fearing Yahuwah and served their carved images, both their children and their children's children, as their fathers did. They are doing to this day.